Okay guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about a tracking diet. So what is a tracking diet? A tracking diet is basically having calculated your calorie requirements to either maintain your weight or lose weight or put muscle on, and tracking those calories each day, each week throughout the period of time of your diet towards your goal. Now, if you're, let's say for instance, you have a weight loss target, if it's a large amount of weight over a long period of time, your deficit may be slightly less compared to a shorter duration goal with the same amount of weight. So obviously the deficit would be much larger. So with that, you have to consider how challenging it will be to adhere to a diet with a steep calorie deficit, because obviously your food volume will be greatly reduced to achieve your weight loss target within that period of time. Compared to over a longer period of time, you do have more calories to have over a longer period of time, so your food volume's higher, and it probably feels less like you're dieting. So looking at it from that initial perspective, you may find it easier to diet on more calories over a longer period of time. It feels less like dieting, so you're less likely to feel hungry in the first instance. Whereas the other consideration over a longer period of time, adherence will become an issue. It will feel restrictive, especially when tracking calories. It can be incredibly time consuming, but ultimately it is very, very efficient and very good at achieving weight loss for short periods of time. How does it work? Basically, as you'll see in the video I'm going to hopefully insert into this one, it is very, very straightforward. You'll have a set of kitchen scales. You'll weigh out the food that you're putting into your meal or elements of it, and put those into the FitnessPal app, and it will give you a total amount of calories. It'll even break down the macronutrients if you're tracking your macronutrients into your food diary, and then give you a kind of total at the end of the day. So as you can see in this video, as I said, I'm putting in my blueberries into my smoothie. I'm also adding my peanut butter. So you can see that the weights are approximate. I'm not being dead on it at the moment, as I probably would be if I was doing a bodybuilding competition, but it's fairly accurate, and it will give me a good idea of where I'm at in terms of achieving the calories for the day after I've totaled it all up. But as I was saying, it is incredibly time consuming, but the positives are, at the beginning of a diet, if you don't know much about the food you're eating, it's very, very good at making you aware of the number of calories you're consuming. Also about the macronutrients as well, because they are pretty important too, depending on your composition goals. Also, the other consideration, you don't just have to track the total daily calories. You can just track your protein target if you want to, as I've mentioned before in other videos, or you can use it to track your macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbs specifically. You may have some of those targets set out, like someone like myself, a PT like myself. I'd give you specific goals towards you and your fitness related goals. You could also have like fluctuating periods of calorie requirements. So let's say before Christmas, for instance, you're going to have a big week of elevated calorie intake for that kind of family occasion, that special occasion. So the weeks leading up to that, you would have a much reduced calorie intake to compensate for that week coming up. So you can almost bank the calories to save them for special occasions. Similar to kind of looking at it on a week by week basis. So let's say you're a social butterfly, you like to go out on the weekends, and you want to ensure you can have a good time, and you've kind of got those calories there. So what you do is, instead of having a lower amount of calories broken down over 7 days, you would then break it down into, you'll take that calorie deficit you need to achieve by a weekly basis into those 5 days, bank it into those 5 days. You'll then have 2 days of the week where you'll have elevated calories available to you, so you can have a bit more food, a bit more social fun, and not worrying about it. But you're still achieving that weekly calorie deficit towards your goal. Also, on top of that, if you are tracking macronutrients, you have probably heard of something called If It Fits Your Macros. It's not the healthiest approach to some dieting trends. People take it to extremes. So some people, in fact, have done kind of the ice cream diet. So as long as they achieve their macro targets, like their proteins, fats, and carbs, and their calorie deficit, they will lose weight, which you will. But it doesn't always mean it's the healthiest diet to help you lose weight. So it's not a suitable long-term approach. But it does allow you that flexibility. So for instance, if I wanted to consume tons of ice cream, which is quite high in fat, carbohydrates, and then the rest of the day I kind of eat protein, so I'm achieving my goals separately, but I'm still hitting that overall target, you can do that. It gives you a lot of flexibility, but as I said, it's not the healthiest approach in that extreme. I mean, you could look at it from other aspects as well. So if you wanted to have a nice pizza one night, which is relatively healthy, obviously depending on the ingredients and quantity, it gives you the flexibility to try and track that. So for instance, on MyFitnessPal, You could quite easily look up Domino's, put in the calorie requirements, and then you've already banked those calories for that evening meal, and you can kind of just eat around your remaining calories for the remainder of the day, and you've not kind of overeaten, you're not gone over your calorie target, and you're still achieving your weight loss goal. So that's kind of a very brief overview of how if it fits your macros. You could also have a fluctuating deficit, so you could go into quite a steep deficit at the very beginning of a diet with this tracking, when motivation is incredibly high, and then once motivation struggles, you can then come back out of that calorie deficit, or try and maintain your weight. So that's a really good way of doing it. You can have a range of calories to track. So one week you could have 1,800 calorie target. The following week you could have 2,100 calories, which could be beneficial in some instances with female clients, especially in around their monthly cycle, where cravings and increased food consumption are probably a little bit more so during that period. So it just allows them to continue dieting, but also for that less rigidity of the diet to achieve their goal during those periods of time. But overall, tracking calories is very effective in short-term environments, and it helps people learn a bit more about the food that they are eating. So it's a great awareness tool as well. By any means, it's not ideal for long-term solutions, because it can potentially create some bad relationships with food, and obviously that idea that you have to earn the food you're eating to some degree, or constantly in social environments having to track your calories, is not ideal. So it is a great tool as part of the diet toolbox, as I like to refer to, and it is great at the very beginning of learning kind of how to diet and learning about your calories, learning about your energy intake. But by all means, I would not use it as a long-term solution. But as I said, if that, hopefully that should have covered a lot of the kind of the overview of tracking and how to track. If there's any specific questions you have about tracking or how to track, or anything I haven't covered in this video, please leave a comment below or drop me a message. I'll try and cover any questions you have, and I'll hopefully help you out in terms of if you have any dieting support that you need in terms of tracking your diet and how to track your diet. Or if you want to just find out what your calorie requirements are, you can jump to the link I've left, I believe, in the member space on my website, or in the previous section of this space, where you can use the calorie calculator on my site, and then that way you can work out what your calories are and then decide how to kind of take that forward. But as I say, if there's any help you need with any of your tracking or dieting support, let me know, and I'll drop you a message. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys.